This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1152, and it's the Relevant Podcast. Here in Orlando, I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia, is Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Nashville, it's our managing editor, downtown Emily Brown.
Hey, y'all.
And from LA, you know, from Social Club Misfits, it's Marty.
As I live and breathe. No?
I like it.
It's not. I'm trying to figure out new ones to.
Marty is, okay, we're going to be doing video clips so y'all can see what I see, but right now Marty is, because we're going to video, FYI, we are going to video. We've been all playing with lighting and mics and different things like that. We're not ready yet, but we're experimenting. And in the next couple of weeks, you will see this show. Marty is currently in a room that's purple, which for some reason has made him green. So he looks like an Oompa Loompa.
Hold on.
I like it, Marty. I like the purple.
I'm going to go orange, go green on them. I can go any color. You guys will see it when the live podcast shows up.
Can you keep it rotating? Just there we go. That's what I'm saying.
I actually can, but I really
can you give us
can.
seizures? Yes, thank you.
You look like it's like underlighting from a customized Nissan right now. Just a rotating variety of cool colors.
I'm a fake cop in here.
He has a 10-disc CD changer in his trunk right now. That's what you're saying is, yeah. All right. Well, we have a great show in store for you today. Coming up later, we talked to worship leader Kim Walker-Smith. She has some new music coming out. Big fans of hers over the years. Also, we have your feedback at the end of the show and Relevant Buzz coming up. It's a big week.
Fun fact. Kim Walker, Jesus Culture, first Christian song I ever heard. When I was at church, I remember asking somebody, like, I thought they actually sang the song when I got saved. I didn't know that people were like technically karaoke. And I was like, you have to record these. And I forgot what song. I was on Jesus Culture's first CD. And I was like, this is so amazing. And the guy was like, dude, this is Kim Walker. And I was like,
that's funny.
Christian
So you went to a church service that had an amazing worship service, and you're like, this is unreal, not realizing it was Jesus. They were singing Jesus Culture.
I had no
songs.
idea that these songs were not the guy who was singing them. I thought he wrote them. I thought they were so good. I thought
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, How He Loves Us or something. I forgot which song. It was on that album, though.
I forget how kind of new you are to church sometimes. Not new in like last 2 years, but I mean, like,
19. You know, 19.
Is that something with your family, or were you? Did the whole family like?
He's asking, were you the black sheep who didn't go to church until you were 19, and your family was good church going people?
Yeah, I was 100%. Well, you know what? Growing up in my house, I always joke around about this, but like, if you've watched Sopranos, I told this to Cam. If you watch Sopranos, you kind of get the idea of how my house was. Like, I was telling this story to my wife the other day about how we were going to this Latin church, and there was like this guy. He was like, I'm a prophet, and he prophesied over my sister that she was gonna marry this dude in the church. And my dad was so offended by that, he went with my uncle to the guy. And he made him apologize, like he was hovering over him while he had him on speakerphone, calling my sister to apologize. He was like, tell her that you're wrong and that you didn't believe it. And he was like, I'm sorry. And he's like looking up, being strong-armed by, it was like some, like Luca Bras, like it was some Godfather thing that he strong-armed this prophet guy and he had to apologize. And so like, that was how I went to church. It was always like out of control. And I'm new. I got saved when I was 19 and now I'm 35.
Hold on. There's a lot to unpack theologically there. And I don't know that we have time for it today.
We're going to make time. 100% true story, by the way. It's 100%.
From a lot of angles, I think we need to have a couple of theologians come in and just unpack a lot of the concerning issues that I have with that story, having not been involved with it. But I think you've accurately painted a picture of the family dynamic.
Yeah, you got to see my dad hovering over this guy and him looking up, like he's sitting down looking up my dad and my uncle, who are these big dudes side to side. Call her. Tell her you're wrong, and like really made and he was like, I'm sorry, and the guy might have got slapped just in the face, whatever. I'm sorry, just slapped in the eye or something. I don't know how that really happened, but in my mind, that's what I saw.
I'm assuming she did not marry.
She did not marry this guy, and we left the church after that.
I grew up charismatic and stuff, and I believe in the acts. I mean, listen, everybody can disagree on what the Holy Spirit stuff, but I believe in the gift of prophecy and all that. It's also probably the most dangerous thing about the charismatic church, because everybody's sitting there going around saying, God told me this about you or for you. And it's just like completely unchecked and crazy. Like that's a wild prophecy. Like that's a
to marry somebody else who they weren't dating.
Prediction or something. That's weird.
You know, this is the problem right here. My sister was, I think, 28. And so, Christian culture is like, hey, get married. And my sister was like, dude, I just got my master's degree. I'm trying to get my life together before I don't want to be just some woman who goes and gets married and that's the end of my story. I want to be a professor. She wanted to grow. And so she was taking her time going to school. So I think he saw that as an opportunity to be like, hey, what you really want is to be married. And I'm going to prophesy that this guy on the other side of the room, who was like a UFC fighter, by the way. And he was like, you're going to marry him. And did not happen at all.
I think the problem is there's the stakes to being wrong prophetically are much lower than they're outlined to be in the biblical cases. Like the stakes are pretty high for the false ones.
In the Bible,
and by pretty high,
like God's going to bring judgment onto your town and turn you into salt if you don't repent, that kind of thing.
And or you can read the scriptures yourself and read what the law says. But I feel like the stakes seem pretty low in most scenarios where they can be changed on a whim in some circles, but. It does seem like an interesting dynamic you had there, Marty. What happened with you at 19?
So a buddy of mine.
Did you receive a call from a prophet?
No. So a buddy of mine invited me to church from high school. We went to church, and then I had my own experience with God, and I went home and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And so then as a family, my dad was like, let's go start going to church together. We never really did that. So we started going to church together, and we went to this like Latin Pentecostal church, and it was good for a time, but then it started getting really weird over the years. And so we ended up leaving it. But I remember my dad's like a no BS type guy. He is who he is, man. Like those old school, pure to the word, old school, everything. Don't go in my parents' room. I'm going to get in trouble. Like that type of old, you know what I'm saying? Like can't go in your parents' room. It's like, that's their spot.
Wait. That seems like a different thing to me. That seems like
you remember like Jim on The Office when he's showing the house and he's like, I can't go in there. That was exact. I was like, I understand.
We'll just seal this door. We'll just seal that room off.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Marty. How many rooms in your home were off limits to you growing up?
Man, just the one. But the problem is
in the basement. Never.
The problem was to go to. This is going to sound very bougie. To go to the movie theater in my parents' house, you have to go through my parents' master bedroom then because it connects. It's like another house on the back of it.
Yeah, so there's no way for that to not sound bougie at all.
Yeah. Just stop right here. I didn't grow up in the hood by far. I grew up in Parkland. So,
So, but the Sopranos analogy, it's sounding more and more likely that your father's actually involved with the mafia.
Cam, the kitchen, like the kitchen, how it looked, that is still my parents' house. Like I can go and take a photo of it. It's still my parents' house. The kitchen looks exactly like Carmela's kitchen.
I have a feeling that our families have similar houses.
Yeah.
Like when I saw the
Cheesecake Factory was a big deal back then, the aesthetic of Cheesecake Factory was a very big deal.
How many faux Roman pillars were in that?
Yeah, that's kind of more my parents' house.
There's a lot, man. I'm not even a joke. There's like 5 in my house. Like 5 Roman pillars. Like there's gold. Like it looks like Donald Trump's bathroom was designed the house. You know what I'm saying? Like everything's gold and white.
Yeah.
My parents' house looks like the White House. Like it has the portico with the huge Roman columns outside.
Yeah. Looks like the old TBN studio.
Yes. Yeah, the one from Nashville.
Yeah.
Oh man, how do we get out of that? Yeah, the prophecy thing. I like the low stakes ones. They don't bother me as much when they're like somebody's praying for them and it's like feel like the Lord gave them an encouraging word for this person. Sure. That's fine. That's kind of prayer. Is a prophecy? I don't know, whatever terminology. But a lot of these storefront charismatic churches, man, the word of knowledge thing is very emphasized.
You're a little reckless. You're a little fast.
Well, I told you guys, I visited. I won't repeat the full story, but I visited a storefront church once, charismatic church, and I sat in the back, had earrings. Thought that they, it was early 2000s. They thought that I was the unsaved guy, Anyway, I go to leave. We're like, get out of here as soon as the church is over. They held the altar call forever for us. We didn't go down. And then we leave, and a guy literally runs. I mean, we are beelining it to our car. A guy runs after me and catches up to me right at my car and said, hey, during the service, the Lord gave me a word for you, for your life. And if you come back next Sunday, I'll be released to give it to you. And I was like, wow. See you next Sunday. I was never went back. You know, but, yeah.
That word could have changed your life. No, my favorite response, because I've had many conversations with guy friends who feel like it's okay to tell a girl that God told them to date them. And I have but
they're not saying like I'm prophesying in the name of the Lord that whatever. They're just saying the Lord spoke this to me.
I've had girls come to me because they know I've had this conversation and be like, hey, Josh, whatever, told me that God said we were going to date. And I said, I'll talk to Josh about it. And I will go talk to him and be like, God didn't tell you that. You just want to date her.
You're Marty's dad.
No,
you're Marty's dad.
No, Cam,
call her right now.
You know how many girls told me the Lord told me to break up with you? I'm like the reverse. Like, God told me that you are a bad seed and I need to get away from you as soon as I can.
All I know is that according to the letter of the law, one of us needs to be stoned, depending on what actually happens in life. Yeah.
See, this is why we need video right here. This is why we need video.
That's it. It's coming. All right. Well, stay tuned. Up next, Emily brings Relevant Buzz. You're listening to Crumb. The song is A Mama.
Season 4 of The Chosen is in theaters now, and the reviews that count are in.
Amazing. Did not disappoint.
Flurry of emotions. It was powerful, heartbreaking, uplifting.
You have got to come and see it. It is a message for everybody. I highly recommend that you come out and see The Chosen Season 4.
Episodes 1 through 3 of The Chosen Season 4 are in theaters till February 14th. So visit thechosenriseup.com and get your tickets now. That's thechosenriseup.com for tickets today.
All right, it's time for
Relevant Buzz.
Tell us what's happening at the intersection of faith and culture this week, Emily.
All right, first thing I want to talk about is what's going on with Elevation Church.
Ooh. Stephen Furtick's church,
yes.
Big church, multi-site, based out of Charlotte, right?
Yes, exactly. Obviously, it's Easter weekend, huge day for the church. And a lot of churches do a really
It's our Super Bowl. It's our Super Bowl.
This is our Super Bowl, some might argue.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl for church is happening this weekend. And a lot of churches do a big push inviting people to their Easter service. And a big church like Elevation obviously tries to get really creative with reaching different audiences, both the ones that are already at their church and also, unchurched people. And their digital content creator was actually talking about that in a recent interview, but she got some pushback for the church's strategy. We know Easter is about the resurrection and the blood of Jesus, but she said that the church avoids using words like that on their invitations because they don't want people to feel like outsiders. And I want to read you the direct quote that she said. For us, the most important thing on Easter is inviting people to church. This means reaching people far from God. So we're not going to use the words Calvary, resurrection, or the phrase of the blood of Jesus. We won't use language that will immediately make someone feel like an outsider.
So I saw this going around earlier this week, and the internet my little corner of the internet, Christian internet, was melting down, saying, run from Elevation Church. They're hiding the gospel. They're whatever, and all this stuff. And I'm like, holy cow, what did they say? And then you see this quote, we're not going to say things like resurrection and Calvary and things like that. And for Easter, I'm like, that is wild. That is no longer Christian theology. This is unbelievably concerning. Turns out the internet might have actually gotten all this wrong. Emily, tell us what actually is the situation.
That never happens.
So like you said, the internet took this as they don't use these terms on Easter Sunday, like even in the service. And, the people were saying they're watering down the gospel, leading people astray, like you said. She is specifically talking about inviting people on their social media strategies. So she's saying when they make a post, they're not going to use the word come see the blood of Jesus.
Blood of Jesus on Sunday. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously, the internet did not take it that way, though.
I get it. It's the slippery slope concern of like if we're going to choose and not choose what things to say or whatever. But I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what church would put "Come see the blood of Jesus this Sunday" in the invitation post on digital media? Nobody. This is a non-issue. Like, internet, calm down. Like, this is
they got it the source. Everyone relax. They just got it the source. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
There's so many examples of a similar, I don't even want to call it strategy, just like communication tactic throughout, like even like the New Testament with parables or, just relating to people in a language that they understand and doesn't immediately cause some sort of predisposed idea about something to pop in their head. I mean, this seems so non-controversial to me.
It's such a nothing. It makes me mad at Christian Twitter sometimes, or Christian IG, or Christian TikTok.
I think all
I saw
Twitter's
so many
like that, though.
Christian influencers on TikTok going, stay away from Elevation this week. They're hiding the gospel. They're not even preaching the gospel anymore. And it's like, oh, geez.
Yeah, that was the hard part. It was
just a digital media employee, answering. Yeah. And the podcast was a church media podcast, kind of like media messaging, design, tech. How do you do what you do? That kind of stuff. And so the question from the podcaster was just like, what are y'all doing for your Easter invitations and stuff like that? And she was just giving context of like, we'll make it more of an invite to everybody so nobody feels like an outsider. Then they can come and meet Jesus at the church. But we're not going to like use scary, weird Christian language to make it weird before they get there. You know what I mean?
But don't you feel like that is sort of the case for almost all, not just Twitter, but a lot of social media is finding some, hearing some news story, assuming the absolute worst and becoming outraged by that assumption. I mean, like we had this tragedy in Baltimore, right? Mm-hmm. Where, the cargo ship, had malfunctioned and crashed into a bridge, and it resulted in the death of 6 of these bridge workers, right? Tragedy. But immediately you see people like, well, take this, we shouldn't be sending funds to Ukraine or because we should be spending here, or like down with Mayor Pete, who's the secretary, like, and I'm like all those things isolated, right? It's like that boat was based out of Singapore, like that it wasn't even like an American vessel. Like like how, like what would have prevented
Jesse, my favorite TikTok. I saw it last night. A girl, numerologist, was like, it was the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and it crashed at 1:28 in the morning. 128 is the exact number of days until Francis Scott Key Day. And it's like she broke down all these numbers of how this was part of a big global conspiracy to overturn the U.S. power structure and infrastructure and stuff. It was the craziest thing I've ever,
lady,
it's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Go back to Old Navy.
But my point, but to your point, Cameron, like I'm not even suggesting anybody's opinion about economic policy or like federal spending on infrastructure. I'm not making a comment on that. What I'm making a comment is like taking some event and twisting it so that you can be outraged about something. And just for the sake of displaying your outrage, the facts or how it relates to whatever you're outraged about isn't really important. Mm-hmm. It's just that, here's an entry point into something where I can express just how angry I am at some randomly specific, institution.
Well, like in the church, there's a lot of church hurt out there. So the idea of throwing stones at mega pastors or mega churches is easy. Yeah. And so, this was something that kind of a lot of people latched onto. This is why I left the church. This is what. I mean, seriously, I saw all those posts all week.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what it was they saw a mega church said something that they didn't like with, and they added to it really. Because I saw headlines of people saying, they're not using this language in service. And I was surprised by that because I was thinking, I've heard Stephen Furtick speak before. He's not shying away from the gospel. Like,
he's very Baptist. Baptists are very much about the cross. Sorry. Right. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
And
so I was so confused by this. And then I read the actual quote and I realized media literacy is just kind of at an all-time low right now. And so people are making up their own outrage situations.
Yeah, outrage culture, all-time high, media literacy, all-time
you see this in sports all the time too. Like, you'll see some isolated quote from an athlete that's like, "Well, I think Michael Jordan was better than LeBron." Usually the athlete was specifically asked that and qualified it by like, "Well, I don't know. I mean, if you're asking me right here, I'll say that." But it's only the portion of the quote that is controversial, and people act like this person just out there proclaiming this now. This is their whole stand without any effort to understand the context of why half the things that people are mad about are even said in the first place.
Yeah, I love that you assumed that I knew sports controversies that were happening. Thank you so much for that. And that really segues well to the next one I have. Last week, we talked about Sufjan Stevens' Broadway musical. And I really thought that was going to be the last time we talked about Broadway on this podcast. But I actually have some more musical news for y'all. Are y'all excited?
Oh, love it. Musical
news. Yep.
Thank you. I need a little jingle for it. Every week, we're going to bring musical news.
We're not going to use it that often, but we are using it 2 weeks in a row. There is an Elton John created musical about our favorite 1980s televangelist, Tammy Faye Baker, that's going to make its Broadway debut this fall.
Wow.
I will see that for sure.
Tell us about it, Emily.
Yeah. So before we get there, so the musical is called Tammy Faye. It premiered last year in London, and now it's coming to America. The description of the show says it hopes to, quote, shine a sparkling light on the generous, loving, often lonely soul behind the illustrious lashes. Sounds sweet. However,
nice.
Let's just say this is not a safe for the little ears musical about Tammy Faye. I won't read you any of the actual lyrics because I want to make sure that we maintain a clean rating on this podcast.
No. Appreciate that.
But as one Vulture writer summed it up, get ready to hear about how Jesus is inside of you, because that's how a musical about televangelists written by a bunch of gay guys is going to go.
Oh my God.
So I normally hear when we prepare for these clips or these segments, I would have a clip ready to play you an example, but because it was a successful award-winning run in London's West End. There are plenty of clips online. I was going to play, couldn't find one to play because the double entendres were so thick. It was just like, oh yeah, oh no, the whole thing is like maybe amazing costuming, 1980s kitsch. The whole thing. Elton John wrote great melodies. Wouldn't take your family to it, but if you are interested in seeing it, it debuts in August, right?
In October.
October
at the Palace Theater. Yeah,
Palace Theater.
It's gonna be interesting. If anyone goes and sees it, please tell us and give us a detailed review, because I would love to hear.
You could double dip. You could see the Sufjan Stevens one and the Tammy Faye one. Yeah. They're both going to be on Broadway.
That is an interesting double feature.
That's crazy. I can't believe
everybody who is mad at Elevation Church and mad at the church will be buying tickets.
Here's your alternative. Yeah.
Does Tammy does her estate have to approve the licensing of that, or do you think that they could just write the songs willy nilly, if you will?
There was that other film recently.
Their son,
The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Yeah, there was a movie that came out like 3 years ago.
I couldn't even watch it. I was catching PTSD, started bursting on tears when I'm dead serious when I put the movie on, because it's like too traumatic of that Latin church I was telling you about. It was very much like that.
Did you know what one are you talking about? The one that was just recent, or the one a couple years ago? I
bought it.
That was on the cover of our magazine.
Jessica Chastain.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was great.
I started watching it and literally, I was watching my wife and I was like, this is too. At the time, I had just started therapy, and I was like, this is too heavy for me. It reminds me of like really bad. So I don't know. I still haven't even seen the movie, but
it was excellent. We had Jessica on the cover of the magazine. It was really well done. It was earnestly done. There's other subcultures of Tammy Faye that kind of like have been offshoots, like campy stuff or whatever. I don't know that the family's involved with that. I followed Jay Baker, their son, on social, and I know that he was involved in the most recent documentary that came out about Tammy Faye. So I think there was some sort of thumbs up on that one. I haven't seen him talking about this musical at all, so I don't think the family is involved. It's just more that she's a kitschy pop culture figure.
Yeah, it is interesting because I think she's become a little bit of like a gay icon, which I don't think anyone would have predicted that trajectory.
Because of her outfits and her.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think she was very warm.
She went wild. Yeah, she was wild.
She was affirming at the end. At the end, after the divorce and everything, turned out that she wasn't this bigoted televangelist, whatever. She was kind. She had the audacity to be kind to outsiders in society, and she really cared about them. And so they felt that, and then she died, So she kind of ended on a note of endearment to that community.
Yeah, it seemed like grace was really her kind of thing, like that. And I think that, attracted a lot of different types of people to
and that came through at the Jessica Chastain movie. That came through. Her heart came through. She seemed like a wonderful, wonderful person and just had a rough life, a really hard life. Yeah. I remember in the 80s, I'm dating myself, but I remember in the 80s, we were at the mall one time and there was this like kitschy t-shirt shop. It was like The Simpsons had just come out. And so like there's Simpsons t-shirts and like, don't have a cow, man. And I was like, and then there was this one t-shirt and it was a white shirt and it just had big fluorescent smudges all over it. And it said, I ran into Tammy Faye at the mall.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
That t-shirt, I was like 7 years old. I have never forgotten that t-shirt. It was so funny to me. Yeah. I ran into Tammy Faye at the mall. Anyway. All right. Anything else, Emily?
Yeah, I do have one more thing, and I'll keep it brief because it is about politics, but it's a fun one. This is not much of a spoiler alert, but it does look like this year's presidential election is going to be Trump versus Biden again. And a good portion of the country is not excited about that. Both candidates have like historically high dissatisfaction within their parties. And it looks like about half the country would rather have literally anybody else. And it turns out that could actually happen.
Do tell.
There's a man in Texas who has legally changed his name to literally anybody else and has launched a presidential campaign. In an interview, he said he was doing this to give voters a chance to express their unhappiness with the two frontrunners by writing in his name come November.
That's amazing.
Literally anybody else. Jesse, when I saw we posted this, when I saw it, I immediately thought this is something you would have done. This is brilliant.
Yeah, I actually thought it was Jesse for a second.
It's perfect. And it shows that this person just the wherewithal to do this is instant qualification to run this country. This is the kind of
common sense party.
This is the kind of mind we need. It's like a band that's called like Free Food. So you just see on the marquee, free food tonight, like
free beer tonight. That one's my favorite band name.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we need problem solvers, right? That are going to cut through the noise. This does both. I
was wondering if you could reach out to him to be his running mate. I mean, the Common Sense Party. This could be your inaugural ticket.
Years ago, when Andrew WK was running, and his was called, and he launched a political party called the Party, if you remember.
Yes.
I did get him on for his and try to ascertain over the course of about a lengthy 45-minute interview what exactly the Party's platform was. All I could tell is he's very interested in partying, but. On the merits of the name, the Party, I loved it. So maybe we can get this guy on in the tradition of bringing on outsider political candidates.
Yeah, I think we have like a good platform for him with the Common Sense Party. We've worked through a lot of things on this show, so we can just kind of hand that to him. He seems game. I mean, he like posted a picture of his license. He like truly legally changed his name to literally anybody else.
So what's his like nickname? Does he have like a nickname or something like, hey,
I don't know, John. But the article I was reading kept referring to him by his last name as just like Mr. Else, which I think is really funny Else. Now. So I don't know if it's like a first, middle, last name, or if there's, if he goes by like literally anybody, he needs maybe a shorter nickname.
Jesse, I think it was 2012 was the Andrew WK. I'm remembering the studio we were in. It was Winter Park. Maybe it's 2000.
But I'd be interested in running back and listening to that interview. I'm sure I have it in its entirety on a hard drive somewhere. But I thought it was a joke when I arranged the interview. Right. But I think he was actually taking like political donations to support and things. And I think he was. I don't think he was overly concerned about policy. I think it was just he's just a big idea guy.
Well, do you remember after that interview, Tyler was on the show, you were on the show. And we got talking about alternate political parties, and we came up with we need to start the dance party, and and a fan made a dance party campaign T-shirt of Tyler and myself as the inaugural ticket for the dance party, and it's right there on the shelf. I have it. I still have the dance party.
Is it like
t-shirt.
A picture of y'all dancing?
I'll grab it. Hold on,
please.
I'm looking up I ran into Tammy Faye shirt at the mall. It's available. I'm buying it literally right now.
You should. You need to have that.
You can't really see it.
rotation.
No, I can see like her eyes and lips.
Yeah, hold on. If I could.
All right, here we go.
Look, I found this shirt, Cam. It's on Etsy. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Wait, that looks.
Huckabee?
Are you doing the Gangnam Style?
That's incredible.
Yes, he has me doing Gangnam Style, and Jesse doing.
Can I be honest? I can't help but think this conversation is taking me back. I can't help but think what the trajectory of our country would be had either the dance party or Andrew WK's The Party Party won that year and maintained the White House. I can't help but think we may be better off than where we are now.
What is Andrew WK doing now? Do you know?
What is he not
Partying.
doing? Yeah, he's a.
What do you think? Partying.
He had one hit album and moved to somewhere he could live off that one hit album, and he's just partying every day. He's having a good old time.
I saw him in concert once, and it was incredible. Absolutely.
Was it at peak
incredible.
or was it sad 10 years later?
No, this was peak.
Wow.
But the thing is, I don't think he's capable of sadness. Like, I don't think he is the most optimistic person I've ever, encountered in any kind of way.
Wow.
So,
That's wild.
There we go.
Well, there you go.
He's married to Kat Dennings. Sorry, I'm just looking this man up.
This is our in-house researcher. I cannot tell you every meeting, every conversation
Seriously?
I have with Emily, she literally is researching whatever we're talking about, and she'll find, like, I'll mention somebody or whatever. She finds out their entire life story while we're on the call, and then
I think if I wasn't doing what I do, I think I would make a really good private investigator because I very easily can find out someone's personal information.
Okay. We were in an editorial meeting 2 Fridays ago, and I'm not exaggerating at all. I get a call, and it's from. I got a text. It was my birthday, the day before my birthday, and I got a text from a number I did not have, and it said, "Happy birthday! Hope you have a great day." Blah blah blah. And I was just like, "How does this person have my number? Knows it's my birthday, and I don't have their number? Like, this is confusing." And so I just kind of said something to Emily. She goes, "What's the number?" And I told her the number. Within a moment, she said, "Do you know a Faith Rudder?" I was like, "Yeah, it's my aunt." "Oh, does she live at so-and-so and so-and-so?" "Yeah, she does." "Are her kids so-and-so and so-and-so?" Like, holy cow. Like, what are you doing? She found out everything about my aunt on the internet. And then, of course, I saved my aunt's name with the number. So, thank you, Emily. But yeah, so don't watch what you say around Emily. She's going to fact check you.
I think I was really influenced by Nancy Drew as a kid. Maybe that's what it was.
Yes, I loved Encyclopedia Brown myself. But yeah.
Oh.
It appears that, according to this headline from the website metalinjection.net, that Andrew WK got married and resurfaced for the first time since 2021. Evidently, he releases his sixth album, God is Partying, in 2001. Canceled all his shows, deleted all his social media, hasn't been heard of since until he got married to Kat Denning like a couple weeks ago. So,
Wait, Kat Denning, the tattoo lady who got saved?
No,
that's Kat Von D.
That's Kat Williams.
Kat Denning, she was in.
She's an actress.
She was in Two Broke Girls.
Yeah.
Wasn't she?
She was in the Detroit. She's in the Detroit Love on Her Arms movie.
She dated Drake. Believe it or not, it's a random fact. You can look that up, Emily.
I believe that
he was like in love with her.
Anyone linked to Drake, I probably assume is true.
What?
But
that's
she starred in the
two restaurant girls, right? That we're talking about. Like, she was the girl. Yeah, the girl with the brunette.
I do actually remember that. Yeah,
he was like in love with her for years. They dated, and then he became who he is now.
Wow,
I know that's a random fact. I know,
and I need you to know that's what it's like to be me most days, is just having random celebrity pop culture that I am just waiting to use in conversations. And it rarely ever comes up. So I have to kind of sneak it in there when I can.
Also, if you ever get texts from weird numbers, just shoot it over to Emily. You'll have it'll be all solved for you.
Give me 60 seconds. I'll tell you everything you need to know about them.
She starred as Renee, the primary feature in To Write Love on Her Arms, which in the film adaptation, which for OG relevant people, we had some hand in kind of that initial story with Jamie, and now it comes full circle. She's evidently our next first lady. So
the first lady of the party.
Oh my gosh!
Cam, I just bought the shirt, by the way, that I ran into Tammy Faye. I had to buy it. They sell
I
it.
love it. Did you found it? I ran to Tammy Faye at the mall.
On Etsy. It's purchased right now, baby. I had to buy it. I'm gonna wear it next
6 months.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear it next week on the show.
Oh man, that's great. That is literally like the one. I was too young to even, to buy a T-shirt on my own. I was like 6, but 7. But I remember thinking that is just the most clever merchandising I've ever seen in my life. I was just in awe of the pun.
I remember the 80s too, when I was -10.
You missed a lot of wonderful scandals in the church. It was great. Great time.
I've had my own, so it's fine.
All right. That'll do it for
Relevant Buzz.
Thanks, Emily. Make sure to check out relevantmagazine.com every weekday where we're covering the intersection of faith, culture, and everything in between. All right, stay tuned. Up next, Kim Walker-Smith joins us. You're listening to Aaron Cole. The song is Proof. Well, today's show is brought to you in part by Bethel University. Bethel has a vibrant, Christ-centered community where you'll get the hands-on experience and attention you need to become who you're meant to be. Learn alongside your professors and complete top internships that'll equip you for a career and so much more. At Bethel, you'll discover how to use your gifts and make a difference. Explore your options at bethel.edu/more. Again, that's bethel.edu/more. Well, our guest today is Kim Walker-Smith. She's an amazing worship leader who's been behind hit songs like How He Loves and Spirit Breakout. She's getting ready to release her first solo album in 3 years, so we talked with her about why she left Jesus culture in that time, her new music, and how she's ready to show everyone a different side of her. Here is our conversation with Kim Walker-Smith.
Well, you're releasing your first album in 3 years. What's been going on in your life the last few years?
Wow. So I moved to Montana. So that was the biggest one 3 years ago from California. And I guess like one of the biggest changes that's affected everything was I left Jesus culture. And, it's always kind of a hard and big thing to talk about when you say something as big as that. And people are like, oh, no. And people kind of think the worst and assume the worst and kind of wonder what's going on. And it is, and I get it. Like, it's really hard. I was with Jesus culture for 21 years, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around that. And I honestly thought that's where I would be. I don't know, probably forever, maybe till I retired. I don't know. But we had been feeling for quite a while that God was going to be moving us out and into something new and something different. And I honestly tried to just ignore that for quite a while. And I started even having dreams, which I got to tell you, as a mom of 3 young kids, I wasn't really ever having dreams because I didn't sleep through the night. Like I wasn't sleeping deep enough. I've got little kids. I wake up all the time in the night with them. And so the fact that I was actually like having these moments where I was actually having dreams and the Lord was just really speaking. And finally, it was just undeniable. And we made the big and really hard decision to leave and transition out. And Jesus Culture planted a church in Sacramento and in San Diego a few years ago. And that's kind of been a lot of the big focus. And so part of it was just, being in a different state, obviously away from all of that. And part of it just felt like it was time to build some new things. And we left in with sadness, sadness to leave everybody in our community of so many years, but also just excitement of what was ahead. And so this is the first time I'm releasing music on my own and doing it completely separate of the label, but also just the movement and the ministry I've been a part of for so long. And this is also the first time that the songs for the album, going into the songwriting, I really kind of just went in with open hands and just said, I just want to see what comes out in the writing. Like, I'm not writing specifically for a certain record or a certain conference or a certain church or a certain movement, or there wasn't any kind of like big focus I was trying to write specifically for. And so all of these songs have just been birthed, I guess, out of these last 2 years of me kind of processing what I've been walking through and doing and looking ahead to the future. And it's also the first time that there's going to be a few songs on there that I would say are not worship songs, and which is really unique for me and different. That wasn't intentional. It wasn't really the plan. It's just kind of what happened, what came out. I kind of differentiate, I guess, a little bit in my mind of the songs we sing to God and the songs we sing about God. So.
Is there any sort of message or theme that connects these different songs together?
Yeah, it's funny. I felt like the theme was kind of coming together as the songs were kind of coming together. Because again, I didn't go into it with a specific theme in mind. And kind of on the other side of it all, I think the theme is these songs that are really these prayers that came out of the wilderness. This is how I felt the last 3 years. I felt like I've been in the wilderness, and but it's not been a negative thing. It's actually been really good and really a blessing, and really I felt drawn much closer to God in this time. And these songs have been the prayers that have come out of there. There's been a lot of confession, a lot of repentance in the songs, a lot of just wanting to I don't know, be honest. And I think before you can start pointing your finger at what you think is not right in the world or in the church or in anywhere else, you have to start with your own self, your own heart, and take a look at your own heart. And are there things inside of me that need to change and to be different? And so I would say that is probably a theme in these songs, is me really examining my own heart. And are there things that should be shifted and changed and different inside of me?
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of us feel like we need to look inwardly. But I also think a lot of us don't know where or how to start. Do you have any practical tips on how we can begin that reflection process?
Yeah, I had this thought one time. I was, thinking about how Holy Spirit inside of us is the one who brings conviction. So, I was having this conversation with my kids actually about this, and about when you feel bad about if you did something, or, my kids fighting with each other, something like that, and they feel bad and we want to make it right. And we're talking about that conviction and where that conviction comes from, and kind of that compass inside of us that directs us in our morals and that sort of thing. And I had this thought, I wonder if I prayed and I just said, Holy Spirit, bring conviction where there's things in me that need to change, things that I need to face or make right. Would you bring that to the surface? And I have to be honest, it took some courage for me to pray that, because you just don't really know what's going to come up. We'd all like to think that we are doing it right and we're doing good and we know what's up. We'd all like to think that. But I think in reality, if I was to be really honest and look at myself, well, I'm not perfect and I don't have it all right. And so I did begin to pray that once I kind of mustered up my courage, and I didn't really know what was going to happen, except that in not right away, it wasn't like right the moment I prayed that, but over a period of time, I do feel like the Lord did bring things to the surface, that things that he just wanted to address in me and to talk about in me, and things that I needed to face, things that I needed to confess, things I needed to, even things like, this was the hardest one, honestly, things like where you feel like you've been wronged and you feel justified. Like you could probably think, any person, if I were to go to any person and tell them what happened to me, they would say, oh, yes, that was wrong. You are so right in being mad or hurt about this or whatever. But the reality is, even in being justified in whatever it is, it still doesn't make it okay for me to harbor any unforgiveness inside of me simply because I'm justified, And, so that even that kind of stuff, I feel like are the harder things to face when you feel like you're actually justified in your emotion or whatever it is. So I don't know. I think that is like a really good place to start, is really just to ask God to bring those things about, to show you what, I don't know, what inside of you, and in examining your own heart, like needs to change or to be different.
You've released 2 songs already, Boxes and Let Revival Come. Why did you want to start with those songs?
Well, Boxes, I wanted to be the very first one because I felt like it really set the precedence for what was coming down the pipeline. Boxes is just the song that I needed. Like, this is kind of what I have conquered in this time. Like, I am not going to be contained to these boxes anymore that I feel like have, trapped me or held me in, or even were a comfort to me. I kind of hid in these boxes sometimes. But also every time I try to even keep God in a box of who I think he is, he just keeps busting it open and showing me that he will not be contained to a box either. And he's just so much bigger and different even than what I try to think of him sometimes. And so that song was first because I think it's just really kind of like letting people know this is kind of a new Kim. It's a familiar Kim, it's not a huge turn or anything from who I am or who I've been as a worship leader. But it's very clear. I think I've been walking through some things and sorting some things out. And it also kind of shows like, oh, it's different. It's different than anything that I think people have heard from me before. And so I think it kind of sets the expectation of what the other songs that are coming. So.
That was Kim Walker-Smith. Make sure to keep your eye out for her new solo album coming out soon. You're listening to The Slaps. The song is Where Were You Where They Were Also. Today's show is brought to you in part by The Chosen. Season 4 of The Chosen is coming to theaters nationwide on February 1st, and this season has everything. Clashing kingdoms, rival rulers, and when they're threatened by the reality of Jesus' growing influence, religious leaders do the unthinkable, choose to ally themselves with the Romans. As the seeds of betrayal are planted in opposition to Jesus' message turns violent, he's left with no alternative but to demand his followers rise up. So get ready, Relevant Podcast listeners. February 1st is the big release day. Go get your tickets now at thechosenriseup.com. Okay, it's time for your feedback. Last week, I don't know, how did we get into this? The terrible celebrity encounters.
Jesse met Lamar Odom.
Yeah,
was that
purple outfit
at a 7-Eleven.
And then I think you got yelled at by someone. You were telling you
Hannibal Buress.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was in a professional setting, but it did happen.
So, and Sufjan Stevens' stepdad yelled at Jesse as well.
Yes, who at the time was running Asthmatic Kitty. Again, that was a professional situation.
Professional.
Got myself in numerous of those.
Dude, I'll be honest with you.
By acting unprofessional.
I'll be honest with you. We published books in the early days, like 2001 to 2006, 5 years. We did 84 books, and a lot of them were doing well. We were selling 6 times the Christian market average on average, whatever. And there was a year toward the end where it was just like our distributor was kind of like, you guys have a secret sauce, do more, go bigger, that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, but we felt like pulled out of our comfort zone, meaning we had to sign bigger authors, agents were involved, like it left the kind of indie family kind of vibe. I remember walking in one day, we had signed our biggest Christian name yet. And this manager of the biggest Christian name, who actually you would know the manager's name, was on the phone with our editorial director, Kara Davis. And I walked in and Kara was sobbing in her office because the manager was just reaming her, just horrible to her about, whatever, an edit in the book or something, just reaming her. And I was like, this is not worth it. I'm not passionate enough about books to put my staff through this. If this is what the higher level requires, I'm out. And I pulled the plug and we stopped publishing books immediately. Like, we're just done.
Ironically, they took Left Behind to another publisher.
It took 13 minutes in hell to somebody else.
It is funny though, because I've had friends ask me, like, I've gotten to interview a lot of really incredible people. And one of the biggest questions I always get asked is, who is the rudest celebrity that I've interviewed? And I have to explain to them, like, the celebrities are not going to be rude to me because this is a recorded conversation. I am using this. They're going to be,
they're on.
Their managers absolutely will be rude and short with me. So it's like, I don't really have like rude celebrity interactions, but I can tell you which managers I prefer not to work with, or I'm very cautious with.
I'm not even saying any of those 2 individuals were rude. I was not a non-confrontational in my role when I felt like it was it wasn't, I wasn't trying to antagonize, but but sometimes the role of an interviewer is antagonistic. Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, you can't just run puff pieces. You have to, but I'm not I just want to be on record. I'm not suggesting any of those people were rude or the things that they said to me were unwarranted. They just it was what it was. To be yelling. Yeah. Right.
The nicest celebrity I've ever met. He invited me to his house. Everything was Diddy.
Shut up! You're so dumb. You're so dumb. Too soon.
Sorry,
too
soon? Okay.
He showed a special interest in me. Yeah.
He really wanted to buy me clothes. It was odd.
I don't like this joke.
So we asked you, have you ever had a terrible celebrity encounter? You hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast. Here's a couple of our favorites.
Jeremy said that the film Election was filmed at his high school the year after he graduated. They needed extras, so me and a girl I was interested in went. I got introduced to Reese Witherspoon and turned to introduce the girl, and I said, and this is Kathleen, I mean Karen. It was Kelly. I don't think we lasted. So that I don't think that is really on Reese.
No, that's on Jeremy.
You probably put her in a awkward spot, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Now, David's got an interesting story. He said he used to work as a bellman at a hotel. I was taking Harrison Ford to his room. He walked into the bathroom, looked in the toilet, said nice sarcastically, and flushed it. Apparently the housekeeper who cleaned the room had also left a number 2 behind. I actually, in defense of Harrison Ford, that was the appropriate response. I would be so annoyed.
Wild. Gross.
But Harrison Ford is notoriously like
rough,
ironically rude. Yeah, but he does it like he just knows that's his brand and people expect it from him.
Like the David Blaine clip that I love, with the orange magic trick with the orange and stuff. Yeah. Like Harrison Ford was so freaked out, he
get out of my house,
cussed David Blaine out and told him to leave immediately, and he did.
But he's understood that like if I'm not rude, people are disappointed. Like that's literally. I don't think he has just been like, this is my brand. This is what people want. This is what they expect. Few people can pull that. Like Larry David could do it.
You want him
like
to.
If you meet Larry David, you want him to be cranky, or else you're kind of disappointed.
Do you know those restaurants, the rude restaurants, Dick's Last Resort?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you heard about it? They're building one. I went to one in Denver one time years and years ago, and I was like, I'm not enjoying this. This is not fun for me, like getting verbally accosted by my waiter. And they're opening one here in Orlando. I was like, how is this still a thing? How is this still around? Yeah. Dick's Last Resort.
Imagine being the only restaurant and you're just like, I just need to grab food, and it's like you just don't
know.
I just want to go to the bar and grab a cheeseburger. Like I don't really have time for the lady to yell at me. Yeah.
You're just like crying, eating your steak.
Yeah.
And Marty, didn't you have an encounter with a notable?
I met Lil Wayne. I had just gotten saved, and I was on my evangelistic mission, of course. And it was in Miami, really beautiful shopping center in Miami. And while I was at Bell Harbor, it's called. While I was there, I saw Lil Wayne popping out of his enormous Rolls Royce, brand new. He had just released, I think, he was at his like almost his peak right now of just like popularity. He had just dropped a bunch of mixtapes, really popular. We loved him. We absolutely loved him. And so we see him, and my buddy, he yells out from the second floor of Bell Harbor, "Lil Wayne, we love you!" And gives us a wave, really happy, like everything was really good. And then he goes, "How about we rap battle?" And the first skit on his project is, "Do not ask me to rap battle. I'm not trying to rap." And so Lil Wayne, probably 50 feet away, starts screaming obscenities. Why the heck? It's upset. He goes up the escalator. We're going down it, and he's staring at us, like grilling us. At that point, I realized he was 5'2", like he's really short. And so
Little.
my buddy he's a short king. My buddy was like, you know what? We should preach the gospel to him. This is like the most outrageous thing to think of.
That was a great idea.
So he goes into the store, and he has no security. It's just him and Mac Main, his like manager. He goes in the store. He goes up to Mac Main and goes, "Hey man, I just want to apologize. I'm sorry for that." He goes, and this is like, we had just gotten saved, so we're so green to the faith. And he's like, "Is Jesus your Lord and Savior?" I asked one of those like, he's a personal friend of mine type conversations. And they both look at him. And at that point, they don't want to say any other words. They just go like this. They just shoo us away, get away like this, just do this away. And at that point, my buddy just puts his head down, and Mac Main puts his hand on his back and goes, "Just get away from us." And he was so upset from the second floor, screaming at us. I thought it was a joke at first. When you see someone instantly get upset, I thought he was joking around, but he was dead serious. He's like using a lot of F words and different words.
It's a bold move. It's a bold move to go from yelling like a poke at him, like he's making fun of him, to your next interaction is, "Do you have Jesus, your Lord and Savior?"
I was just standing next. I was just watching the whole thing. I was the one who was like, "What's up, Wayne?" And he was waiting. My buddy was the one who just kept adding to this layer of cake.
You should have really started it off with, "Lil Wayne, God told me to tell you," and then I think it would have gone better.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'll finish this if we can meet again.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the Lord gave me a word for you if you come back to the store next week.
I'll release it.
You should know.
Yeah. All right. That'll do it for your feedback. It's time for this week's
Editorial question of the week.
All right. Well, earlier in the show, we were talking about the crash. Or no, we weren't. We were talking about the Stephen Furtick Elevation Church.
Yes.
We're not going to invite you to come see the blood of Jesus on Sunday. Clarification. And how outraged everybody was, kind of like running with a narrative that wasn't actually what was said. Reminded me of like the conspiracy theorists outraged about the boat crash and how this is all proof of the Illuminati. We want to know the weirdest online outrage that you've seen. Like, they just got it wrong or whatever.
Screenshots welcome.
Yeah, screenshots welcome. Clips welcome if it's TikTok for sure. Hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast. Of course, if you hit us up on X, like it may lead to more. Anyway, send us your favorite, craziest, unwarranted online outrage that you've seen recently. We'll read our favorites on next week's show. Well, before we wrap things up, I want to thank Kim Walker-Smith for joining us today. Make sure to keep your eye out for her new solo album coming out soon. She's got a few new singles that are out, so go check those out wherever you get your music. Also, make sure to check out the new issue of Relevant, issue 114, featuring Brooke Lidgerwood, Mike Todd, Need to Breathe, Rainn Wilson, and a whole bunch more. It's available now for free. Just click the magazine tab over at relevantmagazine.com. It's presented thanks to our sponsor, The Covenant. which is available now on Apple TV. Okay, on that note, we'll wrap it. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Emily Brown.
I'm Marty.
We will see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
All I know is that according to the letter of the law, one of us needs to be stoned, depending on what actually happens in life.
Relevant Podcast Network.